The universe works in mysterious ways, a variety of weird ways, hilarious. The universe has jokes. So I was told a few hours ago that I would be taking an involuntary pay cut. So I went to Walmart when I was finished with work to get a few things, like coffee, while I still have money for coffee. And when I came out of Walmart, this man stopped me and I thought he was gonna sell me something. He goes, "Ma'am, would you like to contribute to my drug addiction?" Thank you, universe, for reminding me that there is always somebody who has it just a little bit worse.
Hello everyone, this is Emmanuel Cook. We will be reacting to a new video today, so make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's get into the video.
I'm about to take an almost $15,000 annual pay cut for my mental health, and here's how I arrived at the decision. The job that I'm in now, I make really good money, but I'm also stressing myself the fuck out. I'm driving 3 hours a day to my job over a crazy mountain pass that I'm afraid to drive to my job every single day. In my new job, I'm going to have flexibility. I'll be able to commute closer to home. I will have less hours. I have an hour lunch break. I have PTO. I have 4 weeks vacation and health insurance for the first time in my life. It's really just a hard decision for me though, because I feel like I have worked so hard to earn the amount of money that I make, and I feel like it's a total like 3 or 4 steps backwards, and I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around that. But it's important that I get real with myself and realize that this job currently is killing me. I'm exhausted every day. I have no time for myself. I come home and I'm so irritated and tired that like I can't even think straight. The new job will allow me a new level of flexibility. I don't have to get up as early. I will get home at a normal hour. I'll have time for myself after work, and I can make my life mine again. I think it's really just about realizing the fact that money isn't everything. And I know that's all I talk about on here, but really money isn't everything. And my mental health and happiness is more important than going and making money for somebody else. And the other part of this is it's not like I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. I'm still going to have enough money to pay my house and my essentials. I may have to cut back on what I'm saving and investing every single month, because I do save and invest pretty aggressively. I'm probably going to have to cut back on that. I'm probably also going to have to cut back a bit on my discretionary spending in some form. But it is just a difficult decision. It's hard for me to kind of take a back seat and say, I'm just going to be okay with making less money. It's hard. Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do, and that's where I'm at. So we're just gonna have to take the pay cut. If you're in a similar position, I just want to say that like the realization that you might have if you are in a position where you're thinking about taking a pay cut, you know, consider other things other than how much money you make and the other kind of value that you can add to your life outside of work. I know at this point in my life, in my mid to late 20s, I want ease, and I don't want to run this rat race forever, and I want ease in my life. And taking a pay cut, unfortunately, is just going to be a byproduct of that. If you're somebody who has taken a significant pay cut in the name of your mental health, I would love to hear how that's gone for you, because I'm nervous. I'm definitely nervous, and I just want my happiness back, and I'm worried about all of it.
This is brave. This is brave for you to share this, because
My dad was working in the mortgage industry and was making roughly around $200,000 per year. Back in 07-08, when the mortgage crisis happened and the economy collapsed, he was out of a job and had no choice but to take a job making roughly around $40,000 per year. So he took an incredibly large pay cut, but at the end of the day, life goes on and he needed money to pay his fucking bills. So right now, it is very important to understand that let's say you're making $100,000 per year, but you could only find a job that is paying you 65, 70, 80. You don't want to take a pay cut, but you still have to survive. Sometimes it is necessary to take that pay cut, to take the job that is available for you, because that's the only thing you can do. Fast forward now, my dad is a VP.
taking a pay cut ever that I did.
Yes, and I'm a prime example of this. When I wanted to move from consulting into private equity, I think I was getting paid like 50k, and I ended up taking a pay cut to about 27k just to do this internship. But the whole idea was that doing that internship would put me in good stead for more senior roles in the buy side in the long run. And I think within like a month of me joining this private equity firm, I had recruiters reaching out to me with more money for all these different roles in the buy side, and I actually ended up moving into asset management and getting paid about 65k, which was like significantly larger than what I was getting paid before when I was in consulting, and then larger than the internship as well. So yeah, generally if you're going to pivot or move into an industry that you don't have any experience in, 9 times out of 10 you're going to go into a junior role, and what comes with a junior role is the junior pay. But the whole idea is that you get into that industry, you learn all the various different things that you need to learn, and it makes you more attractive for like roles in that industry in the long term. If you're going to be doing this career thing like for a while, it's a long-term game, so you have all the time in the world to make money. But the most important thing is you need to close the skills gap. You need to basically learn as much as possible to make you more attractive to making money. So it's never really a bad thing to take a pay cut. It's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. But yeah.
Here's why I took a 55% pay cut to move to London. So again, some background. I originally, it was a 40% pay cut, but since I've been here for a year, I basically set myself back a year. And yeah, so it became, now it's about 55%, unfortunately. And I got a lot of comments like this one, DMs on both my my Instagram and my TikTok. So I thought I would just make a video responding / explaining myself. So although the wages are much lower, I personally, again, have dreamed of moving to London since I'm 27 now, since I was 18 years old. So this has been a dream of mine basically for the past 7 years, almost a decade. So there's that bit too. It took so much hard work for me to make it here. It wasn't like they're just handing out, sponsored visas left and right. It took a lot of hard work for me to even get the visa. And I feel so honored and blessed that my company would even believe in me to the point that they were willing to sponsor my skilled workers visa. So again, I dreamed of this for a long time, and I worked my butt off to get the skilled workers visa to legally work here. So those are two big factors. Now, this is why I think it's, ooh, look at this hair. Ooh. Okay, now let me explain myself. My number one priority right now in my life is not making as much money as I possibly can. I have no interest in being a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. I genuinely am wanted to have like international working abroad experience. I want to be able to go to Turkey on the weekends for 50 pounds. I want to be able to like have an international friend group. I want to be able to potentially, if I do meet someone here, to have my children here and not be so stressed with the aftercare of how expensive it would be to have a child here. If I were to have a baby here, I want to take advantage of essentially 6 months to a year long paid leave. There's so many long-term like life benefits that there are, especially for a woman, a working woman, I should say, to living in the UK in comparison to living in the US. So, and then on top of that, there's so much more days that I get off work. I also have like a couple of friends that are here, so I get to spend more time with my friends. Like I think that it really comes down to like what your priorities are in life. And if your number one priority right now in life is making money, then what you probably think that my choice was crazy. It's like it doesn't make sense. And like, honestly, that's fine. But like my number one priority in life is not making the most money that I possibly can. I saved, I hustled, I worked so hard for the last basically 4 years when I was in the US to save enough money to pay off all of my student debt. So I don't have any debt. And that was a big choice for me. And so now that I'm debt free, essentially, I have the luxury of being able to take that pay cut and then live the life that I really want.
The older you get, you realize quality is better than quantity. I took a $9,000 pay cut like a year and a half ago, and it was totally worth it. Let me tell you the things that I have acquired and I'm putting on my resume that makes me very happy and grateful. But to name a couple things, I am on 6 published papers. I'm now lead author drafting my first paper. I'm a preceptor for MPH students. I am a Scrum Master. It's just a fancy term saying project manager, but for the Agile framework, aka Scrum. I'm also doing project management stuff, drafting SOPs, agendas, progress reports, you name it, everything project management related. I'm also on an AI and ML project that I've been wanting to be on for a year now.
I'm super excited to collaborate with engineers and data scientists on that. I get to take time off. I'm going to freaking Coachella. So if you're on the same boat, do the same thing.
If you are forcing yourself to stay working at a toxic job because you think that you will not be paid the same rate somewhere else, listen to this comment. I took a pay cut 5 years ago to leave a toxic, stressful work environment to work in local government. I make more now than I did then, and I work less. My own personal story, I used to work in a very, very toxic sales job. When I say toxic, I mean toxic. Because it was a sales job, the management thought that they could literally say whatever they wanted to you. I stayed at that job because it was a high paying commission sales job. I literally thought that if I quit this job, there's no way that I will be able to make up for the income that I would be losing. And take a pay cut? Yes. But guess what? At my toxic job, I worked very, very closely. When I say closely, I mean closely with the CEO, and he did not like me being on social media. So he was very adamant about me not having any side hustles, not having any social media stuff. And I just couldn't do the work that I love to do, which is content creation. At my new job, they love when people have side hustles. They enjoy the fact that people can flourish outside of the job itself. So because at my new job, the schedule is different, I have hours in the morning where I'm able to dedicate solely to my content creation. And even though I took a drastic pay cut to work in tech from my commission sales job, which did I mention I was like the top salesperson, so I got paid fantastically. So I definitely took a pay cut. But with that pay cut came more time freedom. And in that time freedom, I was able to apply it to my social media. And applying it to my social media was able to apply it to my side hustles. And applying it to my side hustles has applied it to my bank account. Okay? Because that little pay cut that I took, I don't see it. I don't feel it. None of that. God took that little pay cut and he said, no, boo-boo. I got you out of that toxic environment. I wanted you gone from there because that is not where I intended you to be. God really said, come on, my child. I will take you out of that stress. I will take you out of that mess. And I will even have you work a little bit less. Amen, somebody.
2 years ago, I took a $15,000 pay cut and I would 100% do it again, even though I am $246,000 in debt now. Let's talk about it. So right after I bought my house, I was working a job that paid me around $60,000 a year, and I felt like I was making really, really good money, but I could not escape the feeling that I was so unhappy. I had just turned 21, I had just gotten out of my first long-term relationship, and I was working a job with the most horrific schedule. I worked 1 evening, 2 overnights, and 2 early morning shifts, and it was an absolute nightmare for me. Like I would go for a 24-hour period without sleeping at all. I was surviving off of energy drinks. I was gaining weight. It was just not a good situation. And I was faced with kind of a big decision for me, which was, do I want to continue and make this my career and take the money, which was going to continue increasing? I would have probably been making 6 figures by this point. Or do I want to step down and have a better schedule? And ultimately, I chose to step down and have a better schedule. And I would do it again and again and again. I am so much happier now. I have a partner who I really love. I have friends. I'm able to build real connections. I get to go to sleep in my bed every single night, which is like something that I used to take for granted, but it's so great now, and sometimes I just think about it. I get to cook dinner now. I've learned how to cook. It's absolutely fantastic. And even though I do have more debt now, I have a couple $1,000s in credit card debt that I'm working to pay down that I got after that. It 100% could not recommend more. If you are unhappy in your job, sometimes it's worth it to like work a full-time job and a side hustle rather than keep a full-time job that sucks. And I love my job now. I work in insurance now. I absolutely love what I'm doing. It's fantastic. It's rewarding. I actually spend time helping people. I think that the work that I do is meaningful. Some would argue that it's not, but I feel like it's meaningful. And even though I am stressed now about having credit card debt that I have to pay down, I'll have it paid down in a few months. And I am not stressed about the next time I'm going to get to sleep. I'm not stressed about what my manager thinks about me. I have a manager I love now. Everything is fantastic. So if you need a sign and you're in your early 20s to take the pay cut, take the pay cut. Anyways, have a great rest of your day. And as always, let me know if you have any questions.
Guys, I know that you have to pay your bills, and I know that things are very hard, but sometimes you have to switch jobs and take a pay cut for your mental health. At times, in a toxic work environment, you spend so much mental and emotional energy on that job alone that it drains you so much to the point where it affects every aspect of your life, including your personal life. At that point, that job is not worth it. So switch jobs, get less pay, and have more space in your mind. Have a clear mind. Money is very important, but at some point, it is not worth your mental health. It is not worth your stress and anxiety levels that you will have by staying at that job. What is the real cost of leaving versus what is the real cost of staying? If the cost of staying outweighs the cost of leaving, you must leave. Find another job that may pay less, but you are much happier at that job and actually have time for yourself. You can only do things for so long. At some point, it's just like, it's not even worth it anymore. And at that specific point, you're good. You can just go ahead, start looking for a brand new job. Trust me, make that leap of faith and you will thank yourself, because you will be a lot less stressed and actually have time for yourself, have energy for yourself, and be a lot happier. A quick reminder, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's continue the video.
Here are 3 reasons why taking a pay cut at my second job was the best decision I ever made. So for a little bit of background, I was having a career crisis back in 2019. I had about 2 years of work experience under my belt, and I was having a really hard time finding my next role. Ultimately, I ended up getting an interview through somebody in my network, and I got the offer at the end of the interview process, and the job was paying $60,000, not really open for negotiation. And in my current role that I would be leaving, or was leaving, I was making $65,000 to $67,000. I don't remember exactly. I ended up accepting the offer because in my mind, this role would open a lot of doors for me in a little bit of a different industry and just give me a different type of experience. But what I didn't know at the time was how much I would actually learn as a result of taking this job, both inside and outside of the office. So the first thing that I learned was the job that I thought I always wanted, which was the job that I now was in, the second job where I took the pay cut, was actually not at all what I wanted my career to look like. And I'm so happy that I suffered through it and that I learned how much that job actually wasn't aligned with me as a person that early on in my career. Because I genuinely think that if I hadn't gotten that job and I hadn't accepted the pay cut, I would have continued to pursue jobs in that industry probably for a long time, only to realize way later down the line that it was all kind of a waste of time. The second reason taking this pay cut was the best decision I ever made is because I ended up learning more in 1 year than I did in 2 years at my other job. This job that I took was a consulting-based job, and so I was severely underpaid for the amount of work that I was doing, but I was in a pretty high-pressure environment. I had to deal with a lot of different clients. I had 12 different clients at a time. It was very tight deadlines, tight turnarounds, detail-oriented work. I had to learn how to communicate with people internally. I had to learn how to communicate with people externally. I just learned literally so much in that job, and it set me up for success in my next job as well as through my business. Even if you hate your job, because I really didn't like this job, it really does help you to take it for what it is, learn as much as possible while you're there, because it will inform all of your future career decisions. And the third reason why taking this pay cut was the best decision I ever made is because it ultimately was one of the catalysts for starting Break Your Budget. And I will say with confidence that starting Break Your Budget, my side hustle, is the best decision I made in my 20s. The reason why I say it was a catalyst is because since I was taking a pay cut, I was a little bit stressed about how much money I was bringing in. I wasn't comfortable making less. And so I really wanted to increase my income and start a side hustle and make more. It's a much longer story than that, obviously, but if I hadn't taken that pay cut, I wouldn't have been as motivated to make money through Break Your Budget. If you have a similar story or thoughts, I'd love to hear them. And with that, cheers.
One of the best decisions I ever made was taking a pay cut. I was managing a recruiting team at a nonprofit, and I really wanted to move into tech, and I got an offer for a senior recruiter, but it paid $6,000 less annually. I justified it because I knew that with bonus, it was going to be more annually, but I also knew that there was a lot more growth trajectory in tech. At the nonprofit, I was basically at the top of my pay range. There was not even that much for me to grow in terms of raises. Meanwhile, with tech, I was actually taking a step back in terms of the level of role, and I was keeping my compensation almost the same. So I knew that within a year or two, I would be making a lot more than I would if I just stayed at the nonprofit for another year or two. Within a couple of months, we had a management role available, and I was able to get promoted into it, and I got a 50% increase in my salary with that promotion, y'all. Literally, I was making more than the C-suite at many nonprofits. And I don't think that I would have stumbled onto social media and content creation had I not moved into tech. And that has also unlocked this entire other income stream. I think it's normal to think really short term in our careers and want to make sure that the move that we're making is better than the last one. But make sure that you're also taking a long-term view and you're thinking about what the growth trajectory is of a different role, of a different industry. Sometimes taking a step back may be the thing that opens up a whole bunch of new opportunities for you.
This is the hard truth about today's job market. And I'm not saying this would be a Debbie Downer. I'm not telling this because I want to make you feel bad. This is just the reality. Now, in 2023, you can't be too picky of what your next job's going to be. Last couple of years, the power has shifted back to the companies because there's such a surplus of talent out there. And sometimes the right next opportunity might be a pay cut, might not be as big of a jump as you expect, but that's okay as long as you keep the long game in mind. So what I'm telling all my friends and my clients right now who are looking for a new job, sometimes it's okay to settle because you know that it's going to pay off in the future, in the long run. Good luck, my friend.
I wasn't going to share this, but I feel like it's really relevant to everybody out there right now looking for a new job, whether they were laid off, their position was eliminated, or they're just really dissatisfied where they're currently at. And I've taken a pay cut before, and I want to share with you what I learned. It took me a long time, a lot longer than it should have, in all honesty, that my identity is not my job or my career. And for years, I'd been programmed to think that I was only as successful as my paycheck. And that's just simply not true. And I know that I have a lot of value to provide an organization, regardless of how much money that I'm making. So that was definitely a lesson learned. The other lesson was I was willing to take a pay cut because I was going to learn and develop a new skill that I felt like I was lacking in my past position. And to me, that pay cut warranted that. I was okay with that. And the last reason, or the last lesson, I guess, is that taking a pay cut meant I had more flexibility. And so my work-life balance improved drastically. So even though it was a pay cut, I was actually working way less. So in all honesty, I was probably getting paid the same. So I'm curious, if you've ever taken a pay cut, comment below. And if not, what are your questions about that? Like and follow for more.
I wanted to circle back on this because I want to also share with you when I think it doesn't make sense to take a pay cut. And this is like a broad reason why. I'm Delar, I'm a career coach and resume writer, and here's my take on pay cuts. Now, right now, obviously, we know that the economy is just wild and crazy, and jobs are really hard to land, and when you do, you might have to take a pay cut. And so scroll back and see my previous video on when it might make sense. But if you're looking for a job and you apply for an organization that is notoriously known for having low pay, I would definitely think that that is a red flag. Salaries that a company provides for its talent is a reflection of how they respect and value you. I personally took a pay cut once for an organization that touted they have got a mission and culture and all these great things. And I felt like, you know what, it's worth a pay cut because I'm going to be a part of something amazing. It was one of the most stressful and abusive environments I ever worked in. And I honestly became resentful towards the end because I was making a lot less money than I thought I would be. I was treated like crap. And so was pretty much everybody else. The culture that was presented to me wasn't worth it. It didn't exist. So if it's an organization that is notoriously known for paying low salaries, that's a big red flag. I don't think I would take a pay cut for that. Now, if you're taking a step back, if you're going from a director level to a senior manager role, or if you're going from a manager to a coordinator or assistant, it's totally understandable that you might need to take a pay cut in order to get those roles. And that makes sense. But taking a pay cut for the promise of good culture, to me, is a huge red flag. They are stirring up a big pitcher of Kool-Aid and they want you to take a sip. And I just don't think it's worth it. But also, like I said in my previous video, if you scroll back, if you need to make money, go make money. I totally think sometimes you just got to take Mr. Right now instead of Mr. Right. But again, if it's an organization that's notorious for paying below the market average, that's a red flag for me. That's not a time that I would take a pay cut. Anyway, I don't know if this confused you more or helped you some more, but I just wanted to share that because as someone who has taken a pay cut and found it to be not worth it, I just wanted to also throw that into the mix for you as you decide what to do. If you want more tips to land the job and earn more, like, follow, share, and comment.
How much of a pay cut is worth it to leave a toxic job? The reality is there is no magic number. Sometimes we need to ask ourselves, what's the cost of staying? To your health, your career, your relationships, your self-respect, and your self-worth. And here's the thing, you might not have to take a pay cut if you leave and if you start looking for another job. You might be able to find a job in a healthier environment that pays you the same, if not more. But in terms of what's an acceptable salary drop, it is a very, very personal situation for anybody. I'm currently in a role that pays me less than what I've earned in the past. That's okay with me. I can make it work because I'm in a much healthier environment. And I very much believe that no paycheck is worth your well-being. And if leaving puts you in a better place mentally, emotionally, professionally, is not a loss, it's a reset. It's so long as you can make it work financially. So it's about doing the numbers and seeing what you can make work and where you can make savings if you need to.
Actually took a pay cut to leave my corporate job and join a startup full time, so let's talk about it. I would just like to preface this by saying that I did not take a large pay cut in my salary. My pay at my last corporate job was like a little over $68,000 and my starting salary at Ditch is $65,000. And before anyone asks, yes, my new boss does follow me on social media and yes, he knows that I share my salary. Because for some reason I always get comments on these videos saying that I'm gonna get like fired from my jobs for talking about my salary on the internet. But it seems a little strange to take a new position without getting like a bump in your salary. Sometimes when people are looking for a new job, they're expecting some type of pay bump. Everyone says like by job hopping, you can get like a significant percentage of a bump in pay. But there's a few reasons why like this job at this salary made the most sense for me. And I'm like totally fine with not getting a pay increase by leaving my last job and coming to this new one. First, I did not even stay like remotely in the same industry or job title that I was in before. I was working as an auditor for the past 2 years in my corporate job, and that was like very in line with what I studied in college. So if I was looking for another like audit job, I would definitely be looking for a pretty significant pay increase to like make it make sense for me to make a jump. But I completely changed industries. I no longer work in audit. Now I work in marketing for a startup. I did not study marketing. The only marketing experience I have is like from doing social media for the past 2 years. So this is going to be like a huge learning opportunity for me. And through doing social media, I've found that I really love marketing and this is where I can see like my career going from here. So it makes sense to like make the jump now before I get like too in depth into like a totally different career field. Second, startup pay is just like obviously lower. We don't have money to like pay people these huge big salaries. Our app is literally not even on the market yet. So not only is it like a little bit lower of a salary, there's also a lot of risk involved. But with that, there's obviously a lot of upside potential in joining a startup super early on, mainly the fact that there was like an equity component in my compensation package. For me in my personal situation, it 100% made the most sense to like take this leap, taking a little bit of a pay cut, but with a lot of like upside potential. Because one, I'm going to learn literally so much over the next few years. And two, I'm super fortunate to be able to supplement this income with my social media income as well. I've put myself into a really good financial position to like take a risk on my full-time career.
Going backwards in your finances does not mean that you're going backwards in life, especially if you have identified a path that you know pursuing is going to bring so much happiness, joy to an otherwise chaotic life. And as someone who left her corporate job to pursue her own business, I can confirm when you decide to give up a corporate salary, benefits, it is scary as hell. However, I knew that taking a pay cut and a lot of uncertainty was actually going to be the thing that brought me closer to the state of calm that I really wanted to create, and I knew that the job I was in was not going to give me that. I've been running my business for almost a full year on my own at this point, and what I can tell you is that taking that leap and going backwards in terms of finances is actually the thing that allowed me to go massive jumps forwards when it came to my career. What I will always say when I'm talking about finances in my business is that I did save up for my rent, for my expenses before I took that jump. But if you have found that thing that you know is going to let you jump forwards, leaps and bounds in terms of your happiness and the career and life that you want to live, and it requires taking a momentary step back in payment, peace that you create from taking that step in time allow you to make back that money and probably more.
Almost 2 years ago, I quit a $100,000 job and I took a 50% pay cut. Like, I'm making 56 now, but that's after a few raises. And I am busting my ass to, make extra money by doing multiple things apart from my full-time job. So I create jewelry, I'm making art, I'm opening an Etsy shop, I do hypnotherapy. I'm doing all the things to get back to the income that I had when I willingly quit my job. My job was extremely stressful. Yes, it was amazing as far as pay, but the work-life balance, there was none. I was living multiple states away from family, and it just did not make sense any longer. Like, I was stressed out to the point where I was like crying almost every day coming home from that job. And my hours were insane. I was working, sometimes 16 hours a day with nothing to eat, almost nothing to drink because of the environment that I was working in. I just couldn't. Not to mention the stress of working in the operating room with demanding and most of the time rude surgeons. So I took the 50% pay cut. I moved back to my hometown. I am right next to my grandmother. I can have lunch with her every day. And yes, I am pretty much working multiple jobs, way more hours than I worked at that $100,000 job as far as weekly hours. But to me, 1,000% worth it. I was just sitting here thinking I need to, work a couple hours today on a Saturday. I need to make jewelry. I need to get my Etsy shop up and running. I need to do this. I need to do that. But I love it. I'm doing things that I love and I enjoy now. Whereas when I was working in the operating room, I did it strictly for the money and that's it. Now, I'm not saying everybody's, in the same situation that I am at. I am very blessed to have been able to have that job for a while, to move across the country, and now come back home. I hope everybody has the opportunity to make money by doing things that they love. And I'm not there yet. I am definitely not up to where I can afford to buy a house, doing the things that I love, but that is the goal, right? So I guess this is just your reminder to think about all of your options, and don't be afraid to take a leap by possibly taking a pay cut and doing things that you absolutely enjoy, even though it might be a little bit more work.
I wasn't going to share this, but I feel like it's really relevant to everybody out there right now looking for a new job, whether they were laid off, their position was eliminated, or they're just really dissatisfied where they're currently at. And I've taken a pay cut before, and I want to share with you what I learned. It took me a long time, a lot longer than it should have, in all honesty, that my identity is not my job or my career. And for years, I'd been programmed to think that I was only as successful as my paycheck. And that's just simply not true. And I know that I have a lot of value to provide an organization, regardless of how much money that I'm making. So that was definitely a lesson learned. The other lesson was I was willing to take a pay cut because I was going to learn and develop a new skill that I felt like I was lacking in my past position. And to me, that pay cut warranted that. I was okay with that. And the last reason, or the last lesson, I guess, is that taking a pay cut meant I had more flexibility. And so my work-life balance improved drastically. So even though it was a pay cut, I was actually working way less. So in all honesty, I was probably getting paid the same. So I'm curious, if you've ever taken a pay cut, comment below. And if not, what are your questions about that? Like and follow for more.
Hey, time for coffee talk. I'm going to tell you why I took a pay cut and a demotion in the middle of the Great Reshuffle. There's a lot that goes into this story, but basically I had a job that was a higher level in title, and it was about $10,000 more a year than what I'm making now. But I had to drive into the office a lot, and I didn't get reimbursed for gas, so I was filling up my tank once or twice a week, and I also had to pay for help with my kids. So essentially that job, I was making okay money, but I was paying to be away from my family, and it just didn't make sense. So I applied for a job with a lower title at a bigger organization. So now I don't have to deal with budgets or people. I get to work remotely, and I'm making a little less than I was this time last year, but I'm actually keeping more money than I was this time last year. So at the end of the day, my bank account looks better than it did when I was earning more money. And I'm so less stressed. I'm not in charge of people or budgets. I don't have people up here barking at me what to do and people down here that I'm responsible for. So what I did was I leveraged this Great Reshuffle to take a lower level job at a higher level salary than what it normally would be. And I've had very little disruption in my income as a result. So I know a lot of people right now are looking for new jobs because they want to earn more money and they want to take advantage of this opportunity. But I also want to put out there that you could earn the same amount of money and work half as much. And I'm not saying that I'm working half as much as I did at my old job, but I am half as stressed as I was at my old job. So just for perspective, I was at senior director level at a previous role, like vice president level at a previous role, and now I'm like senior manager level, but taking home the same amount of money. So just some food for thought as you're like figuring out what you want to do with your job and your career. Remember, there's currency beyond salary. There's work-life balance, there's stress, there's time with family. I mean, at the end of the day, time is the biggest currency. So how much time is your job giving you to live your life? Like and follow for more tips.
At some point in your life, you're going to have to take a cut in salary for a raise in your sanity. Hate your job? Quit. Can't stand the industry? Leave. Quitting often gets conflated with a weakness, but the reality is there's no correlation between the two. If you quit something for something greater, then that is your superpower. A dear friend once said to me, you need a job, not this job. Wow, perspective. And once I understood that I didn't need the job that I so deeply hated, I began to think about other things that I don't need. Now, here I am at my job, 19 years, making great money, and I know that I'm going to quit at some point, and I know that I'm going to take a hit financially, and so now I got to start cutting back on expenses. Well, what do I need? Number one on the list, cable. I don't need no damn cable, they need me. By being a customer, I'm paying their salary. The average cable bill is what? $200, $250 a month? You times 200 by 12, what's that, about $2,400 for something I don't need? Another thing I don't need, AC. Now, depending on what state you're in, you know, I realize that, you know, most very hot states probably have like central air mandated, but in New York City, it gets incredibly hot. Very, very hot. The temperatures get very, very high in New York. You know what didn't get high this summer, or the summers, all summer since I quit my corporate job? My electric bill, that should be $38 a month. Cause you know why? I got my own AC. You take a cold shower, you come out with your naked ass and you lay with no blanket underneath a fan. The hood AC. You know what I mean? You're calling me, you know, crazy and cheap, and that's crazy. But you got your AC going. You got your cable going. But on Monday, you are miserable AF. On Monday, I can't wait to get to work because I love my job. Now, that's not me throwing shade. That's me throwing perspective. Now, I don't want to mislead anyone. Nothing is perfect about anything. Do I sometimes get frustrated at work? Of course. But if you know me well. Everybody knows I love my job, bro. I'm in the airline industry. Look at my earrings, bro. Come on. Can you see that? I got airplane earrings. I love my job. Not only do I love my job, I love the flexibility that my job offers, which is why I'm never there. If you love being at work more than you love being at home, something's wrong, damn it, right? So I'm rarely there because, again, I have that flexibility, you know, working in the airline industry. That's the inherent nature of it. It's flexible. But when I am there, gosh, I just smile all day long. Like, I really love my job, bro. And I never thought that I could say some shit like that, but I do. So that can be you too. Like, people talk, you read these stories all the time. Like, I just read a story last week. A gentleman quit his $80K per year salary to go work in Trader Joe's. And he is the happiest that he's ever been in his life. You know what I mean? And people are like, well, why would you leave a 6-figure salary or a 7-figure salary to go pack bags in a supermarket? And like, I think the greater question is, why do you care? Mind your business. Whatever somebody else's path to happiness is, let them be. Figure out what your path is, because you may have a nice fancy car and, you know, cable and central air and AC, but are you happy? You know, the thing that allows you to afford all your luxuries, does it make you smile? Does it inspire you? Are you excited to go to work? Those are questions you have to ask, not asking somebody else why would they quit their salary. Mind your business, right? So that's what I want to contribute today. I hope that I've helped you. I hope that you've learned something. I hope that you feel inspired. I hope that this content is relatable. And so I hope you have a beautiful day. All right, you absolutely know what's coming next. Here we go. Selfie stick, remote control, tripod thingy. Boop.
I appreciate you guys watching the video today. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.